Hi, this is DIYJust from DIYNexus. Today I'll be answering a few questions about ratchet lubrication. As a member of the Garage Journal forum, I've seen many questions and recommendations about ratchet lubrication. The Garage Journal, by the way, is a great resource for garage and tool info. I'll put a link below. After doing my own research and having solicited opinions from fellow forum members and professional mechanics, I've distilled it down to a few general guidelines. This topic generates a lot of differing opinions. There really is no one solution in every case. Personal preference and your specific working conditions and requirements make one lube good for your ratchet, but a bad choice for someone else. In most cases, following the guidelines I'm presenting will net you good results. The first question, why should a ratchet be lubed? After all, the factory did it perfectly, and it's permanent, right? Nope. In front of the camera I have two ratchets I just opened. First one is this small Harbor Freight 1/4 inch drive flex head, and I've never touched it before, but as I pull this out you can see it's bone dry. So did the factory do it right? No, there's nothing in here at all. The second ratchet is this large older Craftsman USA made ratchet, and it did have lube in it. I wiped most of it out, but as I'll show you on the back plate there was a little lube on here, but it's filthy and you want to get that out so it can be clean. Keeping your ratchet properly maintained in lube will provide smoother operation. It will also reduce back drag and wear. Here's a basic description of back drag. When you're tightening a fastener, you're applying torque in a forward motion against the ratchet's mechanism. When you pull back to reset your swing, the resistance you feel from the mechanism is back drag. If there's too much back drag, you may actually loosen the fastener instead of having the ratcheting action work. Lubrication can really help here. Lastly, it will help prevent corrosion and rust. This is very important for people who work in wet environments, like marine mechanics, or anybody who's out doing work on the car and happens to get caught in a rainstorm. Second question, what are some guidelines for lubrication? Generally, you're going to want to get a light coating of the lube anywhere metal touches metal. In the case of the smaller ratchet, it's pretty much all the componentry in here and on all sides of this. When I say light coating though, it's just enough to put on with your finger and not leave a bunch behind. You don't want there to be too much lube. This will prevent positive engagement. The small parts in here need to be able to move freely and smoothly. The generally accepted guidelines for viscosity are as follows. If you have a smaller sized ratchet with a higher teeth count, you're going to need a thinner lubricant. If you have a larger size ratchet with a lower tooth count, you're going to use a thicker lubricant. As an illustration of that, you can see here on the small one that there are lots of teeth. In this case, I believe it's a 72 tooth ratchet. And as a comparison, the Craftsman larger ratchet has 36 teeth. So this guy would be generally used with the thinner lubricant, and this one could withstand pretty much as thick as you could go just about. If you were to use a thick lube on this ratchet, it could fill in these tiny teeth and cause skipping. Conversely, if you use a very thin lube on this one, it's not going to do very much. And in the case of thin lubes, we also run into the problem of, on non-sealed ratchets, it will leak out into your toolbox. The third question, what specific lube to use, or which ones not to use? The first part of this question is very easy. Use the manufacturer's recommendation. Some ratchets are engraved with oil only, or in the case of something like Snap-on, the manufacturer recommends that you use Super Lube. If you go with their recommendation, you'll keep your warranty intact without any problems, and it should work quite well. I've listed some commonly suggested lubes in the description below. If you purchase through any of the links, you'll help support us, which we appreciate. A few of them I'm going to show right here. It starts with the thickest thing we can think of, which would be your typical bearing grease. Here's an example of what it looks like. It's thick, it's stiff. Next we have Super Lube. This is slightly thinner. It's also still a little bit stiff, but definitely not as stiff as the other one. Super Lube is the OEM lubricant for most Snap-on ratchets. Another would be Assembly Lube. In this case it's Clevite. Other people use different brands, but this is also called the RLL, which is the Red Lube of Love. This stuff is approaching a liquid now. And you can see it will actually run just slightly. The colder it is, the less it'll run. The warmer it is, it will pour out. I'll also note that the step between Super Lube and the assembly lube is the step where generally these two guys are going to stay in the ratchet and not come out. And then from here on down, as the temperature stays warm, you may find this in your toolbox as it would leak out. Another option is white lithium grease. This goes on quite thin. In this case it's a spray, but then it will harden up and be a little bit stiffer. But in this case, you can see that. Last one I have on hand is an oil. This is 3-in-1 oil. Most everybody has it in their shop somewhere. And some ratchets require just oil in them, but this stuff is of course quite watery. In my case, I recommend the Super Lube. It's worked well for me in my ratchets. Let us know if you have a better suggestion in the comments below. What lube should you not use? WD-40 is a bad choice. It's very thin and is actually designed to displace water, not to create a lasting lubricant. Anything that's water-based is a bad choice because it'll promote corrosion and possibly get moldy inside. It's also easy to accidentally wash it out. And not waxes. They could bind, gum up, or something like a car wax is too thin of a coating to do any good. I hope we helped answer questions you may have had. If you liked what you saw, feel free to give us a thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.